I know that I have a document sitting out in my document library, so I'm going to go ahead and access that. And there's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to go down to my Start button, and on the right side I'm going to move up and simply click Documents. This will take me immediately to my Documents library. In Windows XP or Windows Vista, it actually will say either Documents or My Documents, but it will basically take you to the same type of place. Here I can see the document that I have created earlier in WordPad. Now I have a couple of options. First of all, I could simply right-click on a file and I could choose Print. If I did that, I would not have any options. It would open my file, it would print one copy to the default printer with the default settings, and then it would close everything down. Now that might be perfect if I know I just want one copy using the defaults, but it doesn't give me options, and I want to show you what the options are. So I'm going to press Escape to get out of this menu, and then double-click my document to open it up in the application. When you are in an actual application, you'll either have a print button or a print option on the menu, or you can always just press Control-P, those things we talked about a few minutes ago. I'm going to move to the upper left corner of my window and click, in this case, on the drop-down for what used to be the File menu. And what I'm going to see is something that may be, again, a little bit different. In older versions of the operating system and in older versions of the software, such as Windows XP and even Windows Vista, you will see that you have the print option with a ... or an ellipsis after it. When you see anything with the dots after it, that means it's going to open a dialog box. So clicking on that will open the print dialog. With Windows 7, Office 2007, and all of the later software and operating systems, we instead get more options here, and that's why we see this little flyout. From Print, I can choose a Print Preview, which actually shows me on the screen what it's going to look like when it prints. I can choose Quick Print, which is going to be just like it would have right-clicking on the document, where it's just going to print one copy with the default settings. Or at the top, I can choose the Print command here, which is actually going to open the print dialog, and that's what I want to do. Different applications will have slightly different print dialog boxes, but the important parts are all going to be the same. First of all, at the top, you're always going to select your printer first. Mine is the HP Color Laser because that's my default. But you can see that I do have the option to scroll around left and right to see other printers, including my Epson photo printer that I installed just a moment ago. I'm going to stick with the HP Color Laser. Once you select the printer, then you might get changes and options, which is why you always want to select the printer first. We can first of all see some information. For example, that right now this printer is paused. So I know if I send this print job, it's actually not going to begin printing. Now remember, I did that on purpose, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. One thing that you need to do is determine what you want to print. Now this is a very simple document. It only has one line of text, so we don't have a lot of options. But you can choose to print all of a document. If you had selected part of the document ahead of time by clicking and dragging with your mouse, for example, then you can choose to just print that selection instead of an entire page or the entire document itself. You also can print just the current page, which is wherever your cursor is, not necessarily what you're seeing on screen, but where your cursor is located. Or you can choose to print different page ranges. Now we're going to pretend that this is a 5 or 10 page document because I want to show you how you designate this. If I wanted to print a range of pages, in other words pages 2, 3, and 4, then I can use the dash. 2-4 means to do the range of 2 to 4. If though I wanted to print the first page, not the second page, and then 3 through 5, I can use a comma. For example, 1, 3-5 is going to print page 1, then the range 3, 4, and 5. Now the reason I show you this is because I've seen way too many people doing multiple print jobs. They'll print page 1 first, and then they'll open it up and print a second one for 3 to 5, and then open it again to do 7 through 12. You do not need to do multiple print jobs. You simply need to know how to use the comma and the dash to represent all of the pages you want to print, none of the pages that you don't, and that's how you can get all of the pages that you want without doing all of them in a single print job. Probably the most common, though, is going to be to stick with printing all of your pages. It doesn't hurt, by the way, to just say, I want to print page 1. The computer's smart, and even though there is only page 1, that's okay instead of doing all pages as well. The next thing you would want to do is designate the number of copies. I'm going to pretend that I need to share this with 2 other people, so I'm going to print 3 copies. This is called a spinner box, and a spinner box can be used by either clicking the up and the down arrows, or by physically clicking and typing. If I set the number of copies for more than 1 copy, that then enables the collation option. To collate is what we were talking about earlier, which is, do I want it to print all of page 1, 3 copies, and then all of page 2, or do I want it to print it in sets? It helps that it gives you a little preview. Notice when I remove the check mark, it says it's going to print 112233. That is not collated. If I put the check mark on, then it's going to print 123, 123, 123. It's not always true, but generally speaking, I think more often than not, you do want to have collation. Selecting the printer, what you want to print, the number of copies, and whether to use collation are the most common things that you'll do as part of a print job. If you need to go back and work with the properties of the printer, remember we said we wanted to use letter paper and we wanted to use the default tray and we didn't turn on duplexing? Every print dialog box has some kind of preferences button, and that will open up the same window that we saw before. So I could change those settings for this print job only. That's the difference. The first time I did it was the default for the printer as a whole. This would be changing it for this print job only. When everything's all set the way you want, all you have to do is click Print, which I'll go ahead and do now. You may have seen for just a second a little box that came up and said Printing, page 1, page 2, page 3. That's just telling you that it's processing the print job and that has now been sent to the printer. At this point, I can go ahead and close WordPad. I still have my document library open up in the background, which is